Listen, I'm about to share an insight on women's discontent that will totally reshape your view of every gripe, every critique, every sigh of exasperation from your partner. And before you dismiss this as some sexist tirade, know that what I'm disclosing stems from examining countless partnerships, including my own failures, and spotting trends so reliable they're akin to natural laws. There's a system in the female mind, a script embedded from early years that generates ongoing frustration no matter the outside conditions. And unless you grasp this system, you keep attempting to resolve issues that are unresolvable, saying sorry for stuff that's not on you, and gradually turning into a pitiful version of yourself, frantically working to cheer up a discontented woman, which is like pouring water into a sieve. You know the phrase I hear most from guys in marriages? Nothing I do ever measures up. He gets her flowers, but they're the wrong type. He arranges a night out, but picks the wrong spot. He pitches in with chores, but does them incorrectly. He skips helping, and he's slack. Puts in overtime to support them, and he's distant. He hangs around more at home, and he's lacking drive. This blanket discontent, this sweeping disapproval of all he says, does, thinks, or skips, isn't really about him whatsoever. That the epiphany that liberates you from the trap of appeasing someone who's impossible to satisfy. I uncovered this trend through agonizing cycles in my personal romances. There was a stretch, around 5 years, where I was involved with various women diverse origins, ages, jobs, temperaments, but the sequence was the same. Early bliss, the infatuation stage, then steadily mounting frustration with all aspects of me in our shared existence. The first one griped that I lacked romance. So with the second, I dialed up the romance. Unexpected getaways versus the full show. She fussed that I was too gentle, not manly enough. With the third, I stepped up as more assertive, taking the lead, deciding things. She grumbled that I ignored her views too much. See, the frustration wasn't truly tied to my actions. It was a built-in issue that would have surfaced no matter my choices. These women were operating on adult scripts, some innate, some from youth, some from cultural influences that rendered joy unattainable despite the surroundings. They were dissatisfied prior to knowing me, dissatisfied during our time, and dissatisfied afterward, because the discontent originates internally, not externally. Let me unpack the initial level of this. Biology. Studies indicate that roughly half of character qualities, like positivity versus negativity, are inherited. Some women are essentially wired with neural setups that incline them to spotlight the flaws in all things. Their standard mode is discontent. Their norm is grumbling. Their baseline is misery. Without deliberate, sustained work to overhaul these habits, they'll stay forever unsatisfied, no matter their companion or possessions. I've seen this cycle play out in lineages where the grandma was perpetually miserable, the mom is perpetually miserable, and the daughter follows suit. 3 eras of females who could hit the jackpot, wed a dream guy, reside in utopia, and still unearth reasons to whine since their minds are geared to fixate on faults over merits. It's not voluntary. It's a biological inclination, like blue eyes or right-handedness. But biology is merely the base. The true harm arises from early life imprinting. Every discontented woman I've encountered had one or both of 2 youth scenarios. First scenario, troubled bond with dad. Perhaps he was gone, harsh, or simply detached emotionally. She matures harboring this profound bitterness toward masculinity, this subconscious conviction that males will invariably let her down. And voila, she manifests that by selecting underwhelming men, or by being so demanding that even solid guys turn into letdowns, straining to hit her unattainable benchmarks. Second scenario. She observed her mom being endlessly frustrated and internalized that as standard female conduct. Mom nitpicked dad nonstop, found fault in all, never content with her lot, always craving extra, alternate, superior. The daughter soaks it up like osmosis, assuming this is how females operate. This is relationship protocol. This is marital normalcy. By adulthood, the imprint is so ingrained, she doesn't notice she's executing her mom's code. Repeatedly, I witness women subconsciously duplicating their mom's misery, even if they vowed never to emulate her. They echo her precise phrases, voice identical gripes, foster the same toxic vibe they endured growing up because that's what seems comfortable. And people opt for comfort over joy every time, unless they're aware. But here's where it turns even more convoluted. The chasm between dreams and facts. Contemporary women have been peddled this illusion of what partnerships and unions ought to entail. They mature on fairy tales, love flicks, online glamour shots, and they approach bonds anticipating royalty treatment, perpetual passion, thrills, jewels, and bouquets. Then actuality strikes: expenses, tasks, monotony, ordinary partner shortcomings. The divide between myth and truth fuels endless frustration. I recall this lady, say her name's Alina, stunning, intelligent, all advantages. She weds a dude who worships her. Solid guy, reliable work, kind to her. Half a year wed, she's wretched. Why? She anticipated wedlock to mend all her youthful scars, plug all her inner voids, complete her. When it fails, when emptiness lingers, since those gaps demand internal repair, she faults him. He's insufficiently passionate, insufficiently accomplished, insufficiently whatever to mend her inner fractures. Lots of folks encounter this transference where inner voids get pinned on outer factors. If only he earned extra, I'd be content. He advances, earns extra, still discontent. Now it's a larger home. They acquire it, still discontent. If only he paid more heed. He does. Still. Discontent? He's overly attached, I need room. The goalpost shifts endlessly because the frustration isn't linked to the goalpost. The disparity between desires and feasibilities adds more chronic misery. Digital platforms have persuaded every woman she merits a way of life only a tiny fraction can sustain. She views trendsetters in luxury spots cruising supercars, inhabiting lofts, and assumes that's standard. That's her due. But she paired with a technician or bookkeeper or educator, regular fellow with regular pand she senses robbed. Like existence, shortchanged her, like he's deficient for not delivering the unattainable. I've seen this ruin unions where the guy is grinding 60-hour weeks for a decent middle-tier existence. Yet she's frustrated because her old classmate shares pics from exotic trips. She ignores that the classmate's in debt. Pics are touched up. It's all facade. She just registers her lack and blames the nearest, her spouse. But even upon attaining all they desired, the frustration persists via what I term the diminishment process. It's like a mental rule. When something's possessed, its worth plummets in her view. Single, she craved a partner. Gets one, now craves matrimony. Weds, now craves a new type of guy. Same with all. Craves wavy locks, gets treatment, craves sleek. Craves fuller figure, gets procedure, obsesses on another blemish. Craves profession, achieves it. Craves homemaking, gets that, craves profession again. This diminishment applies to mates too. The guy she adored becomes barely bearable. His quips, once endearing, irk. His reliability, once appealing, bores. His care, once charming, smothers. Nothing altered but her lens. She doesn't peg this as her mental habit. She figures he shifted, he deceived her. He's not the man she imagined. See, jealousy and benchmarking are eroding women's joy at unprecedented scales. Every female now peers into myriad other females' existences or their polished portrayals online. She spots her coworker's milestone present, her sibling's home upgrade, her pal's slim down, her neighbor's fresh ride, and each becomes proof of her life's shortfall. It occurs frequently that women craft whole tales of frustration from these contrasts. Lisa's spouse whisked her to Rome for their milestone. You merely did supper. Ignoring that Lisa's spouse strayed multiple times, and they're in sessions. Carla's spouse aids with kids nonstop. Ignoring Carla's spouse is jobless with free time. She notes only others' gains she lacks, never her assets others miss. The digital influence is immense. Every woman contrasts her authentic existence to others' best moments, her true bond to others' acts, her real hardships to others' glossed ideals. This breeds a constant sense of inadequacy, of being shorted, of others snagging the prime while she's saddled with ordinary. But here's a point most guys miss. Many women are profoundly disingenuous, not from malice, but from early lessons to don facades and act parts, become what's needed to snag and retain a guy. They pose as laid back when demanding, as passionate when reserved, as homey when loathing duties, as compliant when domineering. Post-wedding mask drops, They're resentful for the prolonged act, and resentful he didn't pierce it. I've noted this cycle repeatedly where women sense they cut and show true selves, since true self would get picked, so they act, and acting drains. Drainage spawns bitterness. Bitterness shows as ongoing frustration. She's miserable for lacking authenticity. But authenticity scares because she thinks her true self falls short. So she remains stuck in this act that torments all. The lack of maturity is massive and worsening generationally. Many women dive into bonds clueless on true desires, just aware of expected wants per culture, peers, kin, apps. They've skipped forging personal principles, aims, identity apart from outside approval. Thus they enter bonds for misguided motives, linger for misguided ones, and puzzle over misery. These women miss limits since they blur self from others. They ingest all emotions, issues, demands, then feel swamped, drained, frustrated with an existence not truly theirs. They selected a mate to wow others, a lifestyle for online appeal, a route on presumed wants over actual. Then there's the empowerment superiority mindset instilled in today's women. They've heard their royals, deities, treasures to chase, meriting all, and men ought to thank for their company. This fosters a setup where men seem lesser entities meant to cater, supply, adore. But paradox, respect eludes what's deemed lesser. Joy evades bonds sans respect. Recall a woman who dubbed men beasts seriously, uttered all men are pigs. While baffled at lacking relational joy, she handled every guy as a minion thankful to serve, then wondered at emptiness, at hollow bonds. Genuine bonds can't form with perceived inferiors. It's mentally unfeasible. Lots of guys face bafflement dating women who appear to deliberately wreck their joy. She claims wanting steadiness, then stirs turmoil. Claims wanting harmony, then ignites arguments. Claims wanting affection, then rejects it. Not deliberate scheming, subconscious scripts enacting. She's replaying known disorder since disorder equals home. Youth scars so profound many women miss recognizing joy when present. I've seen women in solid bonds fabricate issues from thin air because calm seems off, steadiness, dubious, joy fleeting, so better ruin now than await certain collapse. They're so sure joy's unattainable, they ensure it is. Lots of guys face bafflement dating women who appear to deliberately wreck their joy. She claims wanting steadiness, then stirs turmoil. Claims wanting harmony, then ignites arguments. Claims wanting affection, then rejects it. Not deliberate scheming, subconscious scripts enacting. She's replaying known disorder since disorder equals home. Youth scars so profound, many women miss recognizing joy when present. I've seen women in solid bonds fabricate issues from thin air because calm seems off, steadiness dubious, joy fleeting. Now, better ruin now than await certain collapse. They're so sure joy is unattainable they ensure it is. Repeatedly, I observe women torpedoing fine bonds due to what I dub amplified other side greener thinking, not mere pondering of better options. Its daily onslaught of visuals and tales showing others' superiority. Her stream brims with betrothal reveals, birth notices, advancement shares, getaway snaps, makeover pics, each feeling like proof she picked poorly, accepted less, forfeited more. The fertility timer layers extra frustration guys seldom grasp. Women face finite spans for key experiences wedding offspring. Family building and this bruise underlying worry that taints joy. She's either hurrying timelines and miserable from stress, or hit timelines and miserable they didn't satisfy as hoped, or missed and miserable over lost chances. I recall chatting with a lady in her upper 30s, thriving job, fine place, okay bond, but utterly wretched. She said something memorable. I followed the blueprint from my 20s perfectly, but the blueprint erred, and now rerouting's impossible. She'd favored work over kin, urban over group, autonomy over mutual reliance, now caged by choices sans reversal. The subtle prodding and probing women often do unwittingly breeds its own misery. They probe limits for security, but probing sparks clashes. They maneuver for needs, but maneuvering erodes faith. They brew drama for thrill, but drama fatigues all. They're crafting their misery's conditions while thinking they're pursuing joy. See, there's also the royal imprint from youth-setting women for endless frustration. Every girl hears she's exceptional, singular, worthy of a hero, worthy of storybook existence. Then adulthood's ordinary. Bedhead and messy laundry. The palace is a modest flat. No eternal bliss, just routine with standard hurdles and letdowns. Financial truths add depth. Women got sold on total possession, job, kin, passion, exploration, riches, satisfaction across boards at once. But actuality demands compromises. Job wins mean kin losses. Kin emphasis means job concessions. Security means less excitement. But admitting compromises seems defeat, concession. So perpetual frustration with selections. I've observed thriving professionals, miserable sans families, homemakers, miserable sans professions, jugglers miserable from burnout and perceived total failure. The all-possessing legend birthed a cohort feeling losers regardless of gains, since something's always ungained. But here's the bleakest fact on female discontent. For many, it's identity. They connect via whining, gain notice via victimhood, dodge accountability by faulting others for frustration. They've lingered in misery so long, happiness would redefine them. Joy demands revamping world relations, and that's scary. Lots of guys note this odd pattern where efforts to cheer a miserable woman worsen it. Fix one issue, she spots another. Satisfy one want, she forms another. Tress one whine, she invents another. Since misery isn't about issues, but self-familiar sensation, known mode. Joy would seem alien, uneasy, questionable. Counseling trends have exacerbated in ways. Rather than fostering thanks, embracing flaws, owning up, many women learn to diagnose all, spot hurts everywhere, fault youth for grown decisions. They build what I term therapy self-absorption, ceaseless spotlight on personal scars, once recovery path sans regard for how their misery impacts surrounds. I knew a pair where the lady therapied a decade and grew more frustrated, armed with jargon to validate every gripe. He insufficiently affirmed her emotions. He was distant post-work fatigue. He manipulated facts when disputing her recall. Therapy meant for accountability instead, supplied refined blame tools. Fixes for female discontent are there, but demand what most contemporary women skip. True introspection, owning up, scaling dreams to facts, thanks practice. Prioritizing purpose over bliss, accepting flaws in self and mates. Not glamorous fixes, no viral appeal. No peer cheers, but effective. It happens frequently that women gain joy capacity post-repeated bond flops, forcing inward gaze. After faulting several guys for misery, some spot themselves as constant. After repeating issues across bonds, some ID patterns. After squandering good guys to endless frustration, some cherish past. But for most, misery lingers as change is harder. Easier faulting him than self-scan. Easier desiring more than valuing now. Easier whining than acting. Easier staying miserable than joy's labor. And in a society claiming women's flawlessness, any misery others blame, why alter? The toll on guys is crushing. Decent guys devote years, lifetimes, striving to cheer miserable women, unaware it's futile. They forfeit personal wants, joy, self-aiming to plug an unpluggable void externally. They gain worry, gloom, erode, self-assurance, vanish, striving to satisfy the unsatisfiable. Repeatedly, I see guys ruined by this, diminished to husks, perpetually regretting existence. Treading carefully home, fearing missteps, triggering fresh frustration waves. They believe harder tries, more deeds, better selves will finally content her. But won't, since misery unrelated to him. The toughest fact for guys, you can't content a miserable woman. If you miserable, with you impose you too. Your being tries, affection can't heal her inner breaks. Only her work, and most skip is blaming you simpler than self-repair. This skips saying all women chronically miserable or relational joy impossible. But many tote scripts, scars, dreams, habits rendering joy tough despite outsides. And if paired with one, grasp her misery, not your blame, not your duty, not your fixed power. The check's easy. You content? Content patterns elsewhere? Owns emotions? Routine? Realistic dreams? If no, you're with chronic miser. That won't shift from your acts or skips. That's why women seem ever miserable. Not from guys, not settings, but inner scripts from youth breeding frustration, despite outer facts. Grasping this skips solving but frees from pointless tries, fixing unbroken by you and unrepairable by you, a joy, her duty. Until she owns, she'll stay miserable regardless your acts, partners, or holdings.